The church doors slammed shut behind me so hard they echoed and every head in the room snapped toward the sound. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment people talk about later. I was standing at the altar in a borrowed white dress that suddenly felt too thin, too honest. My hands shaking even though I was trying to keep them still. The whispers started almost immediately, not quiet, not polite. Where is he? Did he really not show up? I could feel their eyes crawling over my back, waiting for me to break, and standing there alone, I realized something painful and clear. Whatever happened next was going to define me whether I wanted it to or not. My name is Clara Hayes, and for most of my life people decided who I was before I ever opened my mouth. I grew up in a small industrial town called Brookdale, the kind of place where everyone knows your business, especially if you're poor. I worked at a tailoring stall near the bus depot, sewing hems, fixing tiers, breathing in dust and fabric dye every single day. I was 28, unmarried, quiet, and that alone made me an easy target. People spoke over me, around me, about me like I wasn't even standing there. I got used to it. You learn how to smile, how to nod, how to survive without taking up too much space. Then I met Marcus Reed. The first time I saw him, he was standing a few steps away from my stall, leaning on a cane, waiting patiently. Like he wasn't sure he had the right to interrupt. When he finally spoke, he apologized for not having much money. I remember laughing softly and telling him he didn't need to explain himself to me. That surprised him. It surprised me too. We started talking. Not big talk, just small real things. The weather, the town, how loud people were when they didn't need to be. He walked slowly, and I learned to match his pace without thinking about it. Marcus had a limp from an old injury. People noticed. They always do. What they didn't notice was how carefully he listened, how he never complained, how he never once made me feel small. That mattered more to me than anything else. So, when we started seeing each other, and then when we decided to get married, I knew exactly what was coming. The looks, the comments, the warnings disguised as concern. It started with my coworkers. You're really serious about him. Then my neighbors. You know, life's already hard, right? Then strangers felt entitled to weigh in. One woman I barely knew laughed and said, "You're brave or stupid, I can't tell." I smiled through it. At home, my aunt was less subtle. "You're throwing your life away," she said, pacing my kitchen. "What happens when he can't provide?" When things get worse, I told her the truth. I'd rather struggle with someone who respects me than be comfortable with someone who doesn't. She shook her head like I was a lost cause. Marcus never asked me to defend him. That was the thing. He never asked me to prove anything. When people stared, he noticed, then looked away. They only see what they're afraid of, he told me once. I believed him. I believed in him. And maybe if I'm being honest, I believed that choosing him was my way of choosing myself too. The closer the wedding got, the louder the town became. People didn't whisper anymore. They joked openly. They placed bets on how long it would last. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, especially the night before the ceremony. I sat on my bed, dress folded beside me, listening to the hum of traffic outside, wondering if love was supposed to feel this heavy. My mother hugged me and said, "I'm scared for you." I told her I'm scared too, but I'm not wrong. The next morning, the church filled faster than I expected. Not with support, with curiosity. People wanted to see what would happen. They wanted to see me embarrassed. I walked down the aisle anyway, head high, eyes fixed on the front where Marcus was supposed to be standing. He wasn't there. Minutes passed. The pastor checked his watch. Someone coughed. Someone laughed. I could hear the whispers sharpening. Of course he ran. What did she expect? My chest felt tight, but I didn't move. Marcus had promised me one thing. "I'll stand beside you," he said. I held on to that. Then the doors opened. Marcus walked in without his cane. For a second, no one breathed. Not a whisper, not a shuffle. He walked straight down the aisle, steady, confident, like gravity had suddenly changed its mind. I remember thinking my brain was lying to me. He reached me and said quietly, "I'm here." Before I could speak, a woman stood up from the front row. She was elegant, composed, the kind of person who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. "My name is Evelyn Reed," she said. and it's time the truth came out. She turned to the crowd. Marcus is my son. He is not disabled. He is the sole heir to my estate. The room exploded. People gasped, argued, laughed in disbelief. I felt like the floor had dropped away. I looked at Marcus, really looked at him. His face was calm, but his eyes were terrified. Not of the crowd, of me. Why, I asked. Just one word. It came out small. He told me everything. About the injury years ago, about the recovery, about hiding his wealth, hiding himself because he wanted to be loved without leverage. He wanted to know who would stay when there was nothing to gain. He said he planned to tell me just not like this. I listened. Then I said the thing that hurt the most to admit. So I was a test. No, he said immediately. You were the answer. But answers don't erase damage. I had defended him. Lost people. Stood alone in public humiliation, believing I was choosing hardship out of love. He had taken my right to choose fully. I turned to the pastor and said, I need time. Gasps rippled through the church. I walked away from the altar alone. Not crying, not ashamed. Clear. The town lost its mind. Some people called me noble. Others called me foolish. Some said I'd thrown away my chance. I went back to my stall, back to work. Routine saved me. Marcus didn't chase me, he didn't beg. He changed. Quietly. He wrote me a letter. No excuses, no promises, just accountability. He admitted that silence wasn't protection, it was control. That he'd hurt me. That mattered. Weeks passed. I watched him face consequences. He reopened old cases connected to his family business. He stood in rooms full of angry people and didn't defend himself. He let the truth sit where it belonged. I didn't rush back. Love that survives truth doesn't reset. It rebuilds. When we spoke again, I set boundaries. No tests, no secrets, no deciding what I could handle. He agreed, without hesitation. We didn't marry again right away. We walked, we talked, we argued. We learned how to stand side by side without hiding. And when we finally did choose each other again, there was no crowd, no performance, just alignment. Here's what I learned. Love isn't proven by sacrifice alone. It's proven by honesty, by respecting someone's right to choose with open eyes. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to demand the truth even if it makes people uncomfortable. So let me ask you something. Was I right to leave? Or should love excuse deception? Where do you draw the line between intention and harm? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand.